So today we're going to talk about developing a culture of learning. Get your coffee. We're getting in. Welcome to my channel, Leadership with Mike. On this channel, I help managers become leaders. I was going to say losers. Not helping. On this channel, I help managers become leaders, and I do that with no nonsense sense, if that makes any sense. So today's a special video because I have a good friend, Paul, from Productivity Ace. You may have subscribed to his YouTube channel, and if you haven't, I highly suggest you do. Paul, let's go.
Thanks so much for inviting me to collaborate on this subject. I'm Paul and I run the Productivity Ace channel right here. My channel is dedicated to helping people of all levels navigate the crazy world of work. Whether you're just getting started or a senior leader, I've got over 20 years experience at massive companies that's sure to be useful. So do subscribe to the channel because quite frankly, I can't let Mike be so far ahead in subscriptions. Anyway, we're talking today about one of the most valuable aspects of working at any company and something that has got benefits across the whole of any firm. And that is how you as a leader, as a manager, can help embed a real culture of learning in your organization, to make learning a fundamental pillar of how your organization operates. So let's explore some tips from both myself and Mike.
Now, my first tip is a culture of learning is really brought out at the interview process or the onboarding process. You want to just hit the ground running. Make sure your expectations are laid out and are very clear. Here's the thing. When you set high expectations of people, especially in the terms of what is expected at work and how much you want them to learn and grow the culture, when you set that high expectation, right off the hop, people will try to meet it. Oddly enough, if you set a low expectation, people can meet that. And that's all they meet. So again, make sure the expectation is laid out in the interview process, and that will make everything else seem a little bit easier.
My first tip is called the golden hour. As managers, we always tell our teams we'd love to them to take time off for learning, for upskilling, to get better self-development, and that we support it. But sometimes I've found that people actually feel guilty for taking the time out. That's odd, but it's just human nature. So what I've done in my team is I've implemented a golden hour where I ask my team to block out 1 or 2 hours in their calendar every single week. And this time is for them to stop working and continue learning. Any subject, just so long as they log it in our tracker so that we can keep track of what people have been learning. And also I might ask them to present it to the rest of the team at a future team meeting. The golden hour has been a great initiative. It's shown that I mean business with a learning culture in my team. It's taken the guilt away from people so that they can block time out for learning without worrying about it. And it's led to a whole load of cool ideas and projects. So the golden hour, make sure you use it.
I also believe you want to create or have meaningful training materials. In these training materials, you're going to outline the company goals, and you're going to also help the employees know how these goals are going to help them. At the end of the day, people are working for you, but they're really working for themselves. And in this training, you are cultivating that culture of learning. You're making sure that trainings are up to date, that everybody is expanding. You don't want to have your employees just stagnate and not develop. Now, there may be a fear that if you overdevelop, that your employees, they just fly the coop. But if you treat them well and you train them, they're probably not going to want to go. Now, as a company, when you're embracing the culture of learning and you are providing training, consider providing useful reading material that you may have or go get. You may want to provide online learning. You may want to provide downloadable PDFs. It doesn't have to be a 3-day intensive. It could be assigned readings or a library of information. It can also be more informal trainings, more one-on-ones. And let me finish this point with making sure that, in my opinion, it needs to include all levels of the company. When you're just sending the low man on the totem pole and he's got to learn more, they're going to look and be like, but how come the management team isn't developing anything? How come the management team doesn't seem to be getting any brighter? This culture of learning needs to start from the top down. And if you're a manager in the middle, you need to set the example. Put yourself through trainings. Be seen with books. Don't just carry a book to look important, but be seen with books that affect the work that you're doing or the job that you're trying to do. People will pick up on that, and that helps just generate that, maybe I should be learning something right now.
My next tip is don't worry if people leave. As a manager, I've heard it before from other leaders that they're actually scared or apprehensive about implementing a culture of learning. That seems a strange thing to be scared of, but the reason is that they're scared people will skill themselves up to a certain level and then leave, either out of choice or they might be poached by other organisations. So my answer is, what's worse? You train people up to be great and they leave, or you don't train them and they stay bad and they stay with you. People leaving your organisation is a natural concern, but in order to commit to that culture of learning, then it's really important for a manager or a leader to completely put that out of your minds and focus on getting those skill levels up. Focus on embedding self-learning into the culture of your organisation. And sure, some people will leave and some people will game the system for their own benefit, but those will be few and far between. You'll feel the benefit across the organisation and the wider population, most certainly. So remember, you're always training for the wider population. You're training for the long term. Some people will leave, but don't let that stop your mission to produce a culture where self-learning is a fundamental pillar of how you operate.
Allow me just a quick pause here. Paul, hold on. We have a fantastic Facebook group, Leading with Leaders. You'll see the link in the description. I highly recommend you go there because we are getting a knockout team of other YouTube management / leadership coaches that, in my opinion, I watch them every day they put out a video. So again, I highly suggest you go and join. On top of that, consider joining my email list, because here's the thing. If YouTube goes for a shit, we're done. That's it. No more. But if you put your email in, I'll give you a little present, 10 pillars of leadership. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Anyway, in all seriousness, should anything happen to YouTube, I would have a hard time getting to know you guys. So please consider subscribing to the email. Okay, back to the video.
My next tip is gamification. Even with the best learning resources available, it's always a challenge to ensure that people actually make use of those expensive platforms that you've built and implemented and actually attend the training that you've paid for and scheduled. But you can't force people to turn up. So what else can you do? How else can you encourage people to make use of the resources that you've provided? Well, one of the most effective ways to encourage the uptake of any training program, or actually to encourage the uptake of anything else really, is that of gamification. Gamification is the act of using gaming theory such as badges and achievements and points and ladders to encourage competition amongst a group. And it really works. People love a badge. People love to be seen to be better than their colleagues. People love to unlock the next level and progress up that ladder and get more points than their colleagues. And even applying the basics of a gamification program can have a huge impact. Gamification can range from basic badges and achievements right through to full e-learning programs or skill belt programs that can take months to complete. So as a leader, decide what might work in your organization. Maybe start with the basics of gamification and evolve from there. But what can't be questioned is the sheer effectiveness of gamification. That's why you see it all over the place in so many different areas. It's a proven method for improving engagement in pretty much everything. So gamification, if you can build it into your learning platforms, it's well worth it.
I would also suggest trying to get everyone in with the idea of knowledge sharing. You have employees that are working with you, are working for you. They have a wealth of knowledge just by being in the grind day in and day out. Wouldn't it be great if they shared everything that they took years to learn with new employees right away? It is great. And here's the thing, you may get employees, you're going to have employees that are like, absolutely, I'd love to train. I'd love to make sure that Joe knows what he's doing. You're going to get other employees that are like, why would I do that? We have management team and that's their role. So be selective with who you start this idea of knowledge sharing with. You want the ones that are, yes, let me do it. I worked with a guy, Bruce. He drilled new people. This is what you need to know in a fatherly like manner. But he had high expectations for people, and he made sure that they knew what was going on in the airport baggage system. He was a fantastic guy. There were other people who were like, absolutely not. I'm going to keep the new employee away from this one until they get up to speed. Back on topic. Try to provide time where people can share knowledge. Maybe in the day, some things aren't as important. So if a senior employee is taking a new employee around the shop, around the office, make sure that you allow that time and that you have somebody covering the work that's not being done, because you really want to encourage and support this knowledge sharing. And take part in it yourself. If you have information, let's say you're a little bit, I'll call myself seasoned. Let's say you're a little bit more seasoned and you've got life experience where buying a house, company investments, putting your damn crying kid to sleep. These are all tidbits of information that you can share with younger people. You can share with anybody, but in my experience, I was able to share a lot of hard knocks with younger people that were just interested. Like, oh my God, how do you buy a house? Like, what's the process? Oh my goodness, the company RRSP match. I think in the US, I think you guys call it a 401k. But how do I select this? I was in a position where I could share that information, and it helped me as a leader, one, be more confident in myself and my decisions, because when you verbalize what you've done and why, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm a pretty smart fella. Sometimes not. But it will help you develop yourself, and it also helps the new people and employees in general feel more connected. This knowledge of sharing, to me, is like, boom, that's the holy grail.
Mike, thanks so much for the invite to appear on the legendary Leadership with Mike channel. Doesn't he look great in that custom Leadership with Mike merchandise? That's available for purchase, by the way. I'm looking forward to some more interactions down there in the comments section, and don't forget to make Leadership with Mike one of your subscriptions. Mike also does live streams, which I regularly participate in. They're a lot of fun. There's a lot of good chat. And don't forget to check out the Leading with Leaders productivity group on Facebook. Check out the description below for details about my channel, Productivity Ace. Myself and Mike are both working super hard to help people navigate that crazy working world, but we're having a lot of fun along the way. See you next time. Thank you.
Well, Paul, that was a fancy plug. I got nothing left to do but grab my coffee and see you in the next one.